Have you ever tried so hard that you wondered if maybe the secret is to not try at all? What if everything you want is waiting for you to stop trying to get it and just to be? The truth is that there are times in life when the struggle becomes tiring. The mind no longer finds a way out, and everything you've tried, courses, prayers, goals, affirmations, doesn't seem to work anymore. You feel like you're shouting at the universe, and it responds with silence. And then the doubt that eats away at you inside arises. Am I not doing enough? Or am I doing too much? This channel is not just about stories. It's about hidden codes. Codes that are behind the reality you live in. And perhaps without realizing it, you have been trying to decipher them for years. Here, each case is a key, a clue, a mirror of what you may also be experiencing. Today, what you are about to hear seems impossible, but when you understand the universal laws, the impossible becomes just misunderstood. Today's story begins with an ordinary man. His name, Daniel Blake. No aura of mysticism, no great tragedy, just someone trying to live. Daniel is 34 years old, works as a systems analyst for a company that almost no one knows about, and lives alone in a small apartment in the suburbs of Chicago. His life seemed stable, but inside it felt like something was always missing. Like there was an invisible wall between him and everything he wanted. He had tried everything. He made lists of goals, tested productivity techniques, immersed himself in videos about manifestation, repeated affirmations in the mirror. He even tattooed motivational phrases on his arm. But strangely, the more he tried to change his life, the more it seemed to slip through his fingers. It was as if the universe was quiet. He didn't reject it, but he didn't respond either. Until one day Daniel just stopped. It wasn't an act of spiritual wisdom, it was just tiredness, exhaustion. He turned everything off. He distanced himself from social media, stopped looking for answers. He just stayed silent, literally, for days. And there, in that void he had avoided so much, something began to change. It wasn't immediate, but it was visible. And the strangest thing? He did absolutely nothing to make this happen. Have you ever felt that the more force you put in, the further away you get from what you want? Have you ever thought that perhaps the universe is not asking you for effort, but alignment? If this touches you, write in the comments, I'm ready to stop fighting. And stay with me until the end of this video, because what happened to Daniel can open a powerful key in your consciousness. Oh, and if this story has touched you, leave a like now. It helps YouTube spread this content to more people. And if you feel like you've been searching for deeper answers, subscribe. You're in the right place. Daniel didn't talk about manifestation. In fact, he didn't even believe in such things anymore. He thought it was just another form of emotional illusion for those who were too lost to face reality as it is. But at the same time, he didn't force anything. After that exhaustion that made him shut out the world around him, he entered a state of silence so deep that even he found it strange. It wasn't depression, it wasn't escape. It was as if his body and soul had decided together not to react anymore. As if something inside said, now it's my turn. The days passed slowly. Daniel continued his basic routine, but without expectations, without wanting to control the results, without wanting something to happen. He was just present. At home, on the subway, at work, walking through the neighborhood streets. Thoughts came and went, but he didn't fight with any of them. He just observed. And it was in this state of stillness that things started to move. First, there was an unexpected call from an old colleague offering a job that seemed to have been designed for him. Then a message from an ex-girlfriend he hadn't spoken to in years, apologizing, saying that she had understood a lot, and that she felt she needed to share something. After that, an amount he didn't even remember he was entitled to was deposited into his account, solving a financial problem that he had already agreed to pay in installments. Daniel observed everything, with a mixture of amazement and calm. He wasn't thrilled like someone who had achieved something. It was more like he recognized it, as if somehow he already knew, but not mentally. It was a silent, internal, indescribable knowledge. And then, Questions began to arise. A tea. Work, someone commented. You look different, Daniel, more relaxed. It seems like everything is going well for you lately, doesn't it? At the market, a woman he didn't even know struck up a conversation out of nowhere. You have such peace in your eyes, it makes you want to be close. And a close friend, after a coffee where he barely talked about himself, looked at him and asked, "Seriously, what are you doing? How are you managing to maintain this energy in the midst of chaos?" Daniel shrugged, smiled and said, "Nothing. I just stopped trying to control it." He didn't assert, he didn't visualize, he didn't ask. He just was. And in some way that logic can't yet explain, the universe seemed to rearrange itself around him. It wasn't about deserving. It wasn't about being more spiritual. It was about being aligned with a vibration that doesn't need noise or rushing or fear. And even without knowing it, Daniel was accessing a principle that many ignore. True manifestation does not respond to effort, responds to frequency. That was the part that started to change everything. But the most shocking thing was yet to come. What about you? Have you ever felt tired? Not physically, but tired of your soul? Tired of trying to be positive all the time, of repeating phrases that you don't feel, of forcing a smile when inside there is only frustration? Have you noticed that the more you insist, the more everything seems to get stuck? As if the universe were saying, "Not like this." Maybe you are at that point now, where nothing seems to flow, where the paths are always blocked, where each new attempt seems to only confirm an old pattern. And then you start to wonder if the problem is you. If you don't have the gift. If maybe the good life that people show you is simply not for you. But what if I told you it's not your fault? That maybe you're just trying the wrong way? That, like Daniel, you're trying too hard to control something that was never under control in the first place. Maybe what you're so desperately seeking, peace, love, purpose, abundance, isn't out there, hidden behind yet another technique or secret practice. Maybe it's in stopping, in letting go, in breathing differently. Not in a begging way, but in a trusting way. Daniel did not become a spiritual master. He did not climb mountains or go on retreats. He just got tired. And in his tiredness, he gave up. Not because of weakness, but because of wisdom he didn't even know he had. He gave up the fight. He gave up the burden of needing to prove something. He even gave up the need to be certain. And in that empty space that most people try to avoid, something began to be born. Something he didn't ask for, didn't plan for, didn't seek. It just arrived. And maybe it only arrived because he stopped resisting. Do you also feel like you're trying too hard, that you're always struggling, waiting for the reward that never comes? How many times have you looked in the mirror and thought, "I just wish something would change"? And how many of those times have you felt like you were alone on this journey, like no one understood the depth of your search? The truth is that there are many people like you, feeling deep down that there is something more, something invisible, something that they still don't know how to name, but that beats strongly. A calling, a feeling that reality is not just what meets the eye. And if you've come this far, it's because you feel that too, deep down, that there is a greater truth behind what you live. And that maybe, just maybe, you are starting to touch it now. Because what Daniel experienced may not be common, but it is not unattainable. And if your life has been repeating patterns, if you have tried everything and still feel like something is missing, maybe this video is more than just content for you to watch. Maybe it is a mirror. Maybe, as you listen, a part of you is saying, "This is what I needed." And if it really is, pay close attention. Because what comes next could change everything you believed about how reality is formed. Here comes what almost no one really teaches you. Reality is not reacting to what it says that wants. She is responding to what you emits to the field all the time. And that is the essence of law of vibration. Everything in the universe is energy in motion, including you. And what you emit into the field, unlike what many people think, is not in what you say, but in what you, and when no one is looking. It is in that feeling that pulses in silence, in that emotion that repeats itself behind thoughts. It is in your deepest internal state. Daniel didn't make positive affirmations, while inside he felt like a wreck. He didn't try to convince, the universe with pretty words. What changed his reality wasn't a ritual, but an energetic state. When he stopped fighting, running, trying to prove something, he began to emit a new frequency into the field. He left the emission of despair, of control of anxiety, and entered a field of peace, of surrender, of presence. And that's when everything started to align. Why? Because what he began to emit stopped being a message of lack and became a signature of fullness. Even though there was nothing concrete, yet he was all there. And the universe always responds to wholeness, not to emptiness disguised as effort. And here also comes the she gives mentalism. The mind creates, but not just any mind, the mind aligned with the heart, the mind that is not at war with the present. You can even think positively all day long, but if you are sending fear, anguish, urgency into the field, that is what your reality will reflect. Because the mind does command, but only when it is at peace, when it is silent, not out of apathy, but out of trust. And it is in this silence that the field of possibilities opens up. There is also another force that few talk about, law of flow. The universe does not move with pressure. It dances with lightness. Water flows, the wind blows, the earth turns. Nothing in the cosmos moves with haste, with tension. Only the ego does that. Only the conditioned mind thinks it needs to rush, force, hold everything back. But true flow happens when you allow yourself not to be an obstacle to it. Daniel did nothing, but that did not mean inertia. It meant surrender to the movement of life. He did not block. He did not interfere. He just trusted. And maybe that's the hardest part to accept. Manifesting isn't about wanting it more. It's about issue to the field something different. It's not about conquering, but about allo. Daniel didn't attract everything because he deserved more. He attracted everything because he stopped resisting what he was already trying to achieve. And when you enter that space, where there is no more tension between what is and what you want, the universe starts to treat you differently. He didn't do it because he already era. And that changes everything. Because when you send your being into the field, there is no more effort. There is flow. There is surrender. There is manifestation without logical explanation. And at that point, reality bends, not by magic, but by vibrational coherence. Life begins to reflect the truth that you have decided to live. And that is exactly what began to happen with Daniel. But what came next? No one could have predicted. Daniel didn't manifest everything because he stood still waiting for the universe to do its magic. He was also not someone with cosmic luck or a spiritual chosen one. The truth behind what happened to him is much deeper and much more accessible than it seems. He revealed everything because, without realizing it, he began to do something that few people have the courage to do. He began to broadcast his truth to the field with peace. Not the truth you learned in books, nor the truth you heard from spiritual gurus, but the one that was born in the silence of surrender, the truth that emerges when the mask of need falls, when the body relaxes and the soul finally breathes. What seemed like passivity to those who still believe that manifesting is about chasing everything was actually the purest state of alignment. Daniel didn't make a go of it in the traditional sense. He didn't force doors, he didn't push fate, he didn't come up with crazy plans, but he did something that changed absolutely everything. He stopped expressing the fear of not being heard. He stopped carrying within himself that invisible tension of someone who lives in the "what if it doesn't work out" mode. He started walking with what he had, living with what he was, accepting the present even without knowing what would come next. And in this state, where his vibrational field said, "I already am," the universe responded with, "Then, take it." The most impactful turning point came when one of the opportunities he had accepted without any expectations, a temporary consulting job with a project abroad, turned out to be a game changer. Within a matter of weeks, people began to notice something different about him. The way he led conversations, the way he saw solutions, the way he maintained an almost magnetic calm. He was being called into bigger meetings, more important decisions, and before he knew it, he was leading a team that wasn't even originally his. What for anyone else would have been a hard-earned achievement, for him was simply a natural unfolding of something that was already happening inside. But the real plot twist wasn't the position, the money, or the recognition. The real turning point was internal. It was when he realized that none of that mattered anymore, that he no longer needed achievements to feel safe or loved or whole, because he already was. The world merely reflected what he began to emit into the field with coherence, peace, presence, and truth. And that can't be faked. It's as if the universe said, "Now you understand. Now we can create together." And maybe that's the part no one tells you. That manifesting isn't about to want much, not even about to try too much. It's about being honest with what you feel, with what you vibrate, with who you are, even when no one is watching. Because it's that vibration, that subtle and silent emission, that shapes everything. And that's what Daniel accessed. Without knowing it, he opened a door that was always there, waiting. And when he stopped trying to push, it simply opened. If something inside you recognized this story, if some silent part of your soul whispered, "This is what I needed to." Here, write the word here in the comments. Alignment. This simple word already begins to convey something new to the field. Take advantage of this moment and leave your like. It shows that more content like this deserves to reach those who are searching for answers like you. And if you are not yet part of this journey with us, subscribe to the channel now. There is a lot that the universe still wants to show you, and in the next episode, you'll hear the story of someone who manifested exactly what they wanted to avoid the most. Because the universe doesn't just listen to conscious desires, it also responds to what vibrates deep within your fear. And the consequences of this can be surprising.